Hello there, it's Codoking here, and today we're gonna go ahead to our third lecture for Pythons for beginners. In this lecture, we're gonna learn about how to swap variables, and namely, we're gonna learn about two methods for swapping variables using 3 variables and using 2 variables. Then we're gonna learn also about how to use a number corrected to a specific decimal place. Now with our IDE open, we can pull our hands out of our pants and put them on the keyboard so that we can finally start to code. So we're gonna understand how to swap variables. So for that, I'm gonna declare 2 variables, x and y, and give them values. So x equals 2 and y equals 3. Now I'm gonna print them. Print x equals x, and now we're gonna write y equals and the value of y. Now let's run this code and see what happens. Okay, so inside the terminal we get x equals 2 and y equals 3. Now what I want you to do is make sure that the value of y is transferred to the value of x and the value of x is transferred to the value of y, so that when we print it, what happens is that it will show that the value of x is 3 and the value of y is 2. So one might think, okay, that's pretty easy. What I could do is just write x equals y and y equals x. Okay, so let's run it and see what happens. Oh, so yeah, it doesn't work. So I'm not giving this whole lecture for no reason apparently. And why doesn't that work? So what's happening in here is that yes, x got the value of y, which is 3, but y still is 3. It's not getting the value of x, which was 2. So let's see what's happening. To understand that, we have to understand everything in terms of boxes again. So x equals 2, y equals 3. So suppose x has a box that stores the value 2 and y has a box that stores the value 3. So when we write x equals y, what happens is that we have the box of x, which is 2, and we have the box of y, which is containing 3. And we're saying that yes, x is containing 2, but now x will contain the value that y was containing. So this 3 will replace this 2 in here, and the new box of x will become x, a box containing 3. Now we are gonna write what we wrote before, y equals x. So this is doing this whole step again, but now for y. So what we are saying that y has a box containing 3 and x has a box. Remember, x doesn't have a box containing 2 anymore, it has a box containing 3 right now. So it has a box containing 3. Now we are saying that y equals x, so the value inside the box of y is getting replaced by the value inside the box of x, which is 3. So we end up with y equals 3 again, so we end up with the same damn thing. So if we print it, now we have the box of x containing 3 and the box of y containing 3 as well. So if we print x and y, we will get 3 and 3. So one possible solution for this problem is introducing a third variable. So we can do it using 3 variables. So what would happen if we use 3 variables? The third variable would be called temp. So I didn't write this in the program yet. Let's write it as a rough work. Now let's write the program. X equals 2, y equals 3, and let's write our boxes again. So now I'm gonna declare temp, but at the same time I'm gonna assign to temp the value of x. So what that means is that now the moment temp is created, it will get the box, the same box that x has. So temp has now a box containing 2. Now we can do x equals y which will mean that x has 2, y has 3. Now this 3 will get inside this 2 and replace it, so x will become a variable having a box containing 3. Now for y, I'm not gonna do y equals x because x now contains 3, so what I'm gonna end up with is y having 3 again. What I can do instead is y equals temp. So in this case, y has 3 in it, and temp, remember, temp had 2 in it. So this 3 is getting replaced by the value in temp, so the value in box of y will become 2. Now what we have is x with a box containing 3, y with a box containing 2, and temp with a box containing 2 as well. So if we were to print x and y now, we will print 3 and 2. So the values are successfully swapped because we started with x equals 2 and y equals 3. Now we end up with x equals 3 and y equals 2. Now we're gonna understand how to do it using two variables only. So x equals 2 and y equals 3 are already two variables. We cannot add any other additional variable. So now we have the box of x, which is 2, and the box of y, which is 3. So now to solve this, we have to use some ugly little thing that is called math. So we have to do x equals x plus y. In this case, the new value of x will be the value of these two added together. So x will store 5. Now what we have to do is y equals x minus y. So this will mean that what we are doing is y will store the value 2 plus 3 minus 3. Now let me make you understand that. So x is the summation of these two boxes of x and y. So it's gonna be the summation of the boxes 2 and 3. Now y is this new value of x, which is the summation of these two, minus its previous box, so it's minus 3. So what will happen is that these two will cancel themselves out. So y will store the box of the original x. That's interesting, right? So y is 2 now. Then what we do is x equals x minus y again. Now why is that so? Well, so x is now this box plus this box. So x is 2 plus 3. Now if we subtract y, we are subtracting basically the new value of y, which is 2. Now subtracting that will end up with x having a value of 3. So now x equals 3 and y equals 2 as we wanted. So now we understood that when we want to use only two variables, we write the first variable as the summation of the two variables, the second variable as the difference between the two variables, and then the first variable again as the same difference between the two variables. Again, the order is important. It always starts with x in here. If this is the way for you to memorize it, you can do it, but I would prefer for you to understand the logic. Now that we have understood these two concepts, let's write them down. So I'm gonna do temp first. So temp equals x Then the next thing that I'm gonna do is x equals y and y equals 10. Now let's see if it works. And it works. Look it here. So this is one way. Now if I were to swap them back again, we will end up with x again having 2 and y having 3 again. So I'm gonna swipe them again, okay, instead of canceling this line of code. So let's swipe them again and see what happens if we swap them again. Okay, so now we're gonna use only these variables. So I'm gonna do x equals x plus y. Then we're gonna do y equals x minus y. Then we're gonna do x equals x minus y again. And let's run this code and see what happens. And yes, they're swapped back to normal again. As you see, the swapping happened again and it's all fine. So let me put some space in here. Let's run it again and all fine. So this is how swapping works. So now let's try to understand how to convert a specific number to the same number but up to a specific number of decimal places. So a floating point is basically a number with a bunch of decimals afterwards. So suppose this could be a floating number. So suppose our floating number is 5.343. So I want to write it in as 5.3. So I want to write it up to one decimal place because there's one decimal after it. So how do I do that? Yes, I wrote it like this, but I used my own brain, but I'm a lazy person, so I want my computer to do it for me. So let's go and see this example to understand it better. So for this example, we can see that we have to calculate the area of a rectangle and we have to display the answer in 2 decimal places. So for the area of a rectangle, we need 2 variables. The first thing is base, and I'm gonna put base as 4.3, and then we need a height. So I'm gonna put the height as 3.12349. I wrote 59, so bear with me. Alright, now we write the formula. Area equals base into height. So this is not called a formula in programming, it is called an expression. So we wrote the expression over here. Now we're gonna print the area. So I'm gonna write area of rectangle equals, I'm gonna put a comma and write the area variable, and let's print it out and see what happens. So we get a huge number with a lot of decimals afterwards, and I don't want that many decimals. I want it up to 2 decimal places in this case. So how do I do that? Let's investigate. Alright, so how do you do that? We have to use something called f string, and I'm gonna display it to you right now. So in order to use your f string, you have to write an f at first, then you have to use single quotation marks and write whatever text you want to do inside the single quotation mark. Area rectangle. Now what about the variable? We also write the variable inside the single quotation mark. However, this is not gonna work because it's gonna understand that this whole thing is just a string, and you don't want that. So this is a variable. How do I make the computer understand that this is a variable? I introduce curly braces. So I put area inside the curly braces, then I put semicolons, and then I put a dot, and up to the number of decimal places that I want. So I want 2 decimal places, so I'm gonna write 2, and then I'm gonna write an f over here. Now this will give us the area up to 2 decimal places. Notice one thing, that while here I didn't put any space, it gave an automatic space over here. I'm putting space over here because whatever you write inside the f string is gonna appear exactly the way you wrote it. So there's no comma, so it's not like it's gonna add an additional space over here. If you write a space, it's gonna create a space. If you don't write any space, it's gonna be all clustered. So now let's try and see what happens. So voila, we get 13.43. So that's how you do it. And do subscribe. I don't want to beg for it, but man gotta do what he gotta do to get some subs. As long as it's not that questionable, of course. Alright, stay safe, stay cool, and do subscribe. Have a good one.